Alright, guys.
6, 5, 4, 3.
Morning, everyone, and welcome here to quarantine, and welcome to Djuma Game Reserve, South Africa. It's a beautiful morning. Scott,
how you doing,
driving with you? Very good.
Yeah, good, man.
It's been up and early, and Scott was actually driving ahead this morning. In the mornings, we leave it quite early from camp, and you spotted some leopard tracks.
Yes, not far from here, we found some what looks to be male leopard tracks. So my plan is to head back to the last tracks that we saw and see where they lead us.
Yeah. Got a feeling it might be Mvula. We saw Tingana last night in the drive with the other male that's dominant to the west of here, and he was limping quite badly. That's actually the leopard that Scott didn't see but heard that morning. So he's around the west. He was limping quite badly from, we presume, an injury that he sustained during one of his hunts recently. So it's not likely that it's him this side. He wouldn't squash into this area when he's injured. So maybe Mvula's around.
That'll be great. So I haven't seen Mvula, so I'm going to do my best to find him, or
cool.
Whoever it is.
I'm sure you can hopefully find him. We also had some impala alarm calls earlier just here close to camp, so we're going to look around. Quick introduction. Jason's on camera this morning. My name is Piri Pretorius. Scott Dyson, as you know. VM and back in control, Alex Quadrat, as we would say. Alex, both Alexes back in control. So, yes, nice morning. Good luck with the leopard hunting.
Cool, Pete. Thanks very much.
We'll
you
see
too.
What happens from there, yes.
Okay.
Cool.
See you later.
I can't squash in here.
All good?
Yeah. Cool.
See you later.
Awesome. Enjoy. All right, so lovely morning, and also it's Friday, which in the bush all days tend to be a bit the same. They blur into each other, but in a good way. But it is, how shall we say? Well, how shall we say? It's the last day before Big Cat Week starts, so we're all very excited, and to see what happens from tomorrow for Big Cat Week, which is a great part of the experience. But of course, most importantly, right now, what we can see, what we can find. And I would like that to be a leopard this morning. Nice impala. We had some wildebeest around earlier. Just a generally lovely setting. Everything sort of waking up. We've got a little bit of cloud. It's not cold, but it's nice and cool. So let's go look around. If perhaps this is your first drive, I know we're getting quite a few people at the moment that have heard about Wild Earth and heard about the live safaris. Guys, this is happening right now, so that's really cool. I don't know what's going to happen next, so join us for the ride. And you can also ask questions or send in comments one of two ways. You can email them to questions@wildearth.tv, or you can tweet using hashtag #SafariLive. Always nice to add your name so that if we answer a question for you, we know who we're talking to. I'm just going to start with these guys for a minute or two. We've spent a lot of time with this herd of impala, and I've just enjoyed watching the progress, little lambs being born, and every day seeing the herd grow. It's the usual early morning activity. They're starting to feed a little bit, grazing, browsing, depending on what they feel like eating. A few of them are still pregnant. That female's still going to have a youngster, that one as well. So this, maybe not that one, the other one. There are still a few that are going to have their lambs, but the majority of the youngsters have been born now. So starting to get these little creches of young ones. At some stage during the next few days, we will spend time with them. When you catch them at just the right time, you can get these little guys all chasing each other around and running around, doing strutting and all kinds of sort of physical exercise if you want. Beautiful to watch. But for the moment, it's just that usual early morning. A little bit of eating, a little bit of grooming, a little bit of still lying down and being lazy. It's getting into the rest of the day. Okay, let's look around a bit. actually want to head down towards Gowrie Waterhole. Also had monkeys alarm calling a bit this morning. Now monkeys, they've got different alarm calls for different things. Unfortunately I don't speak monkey, but the type of alarm call they were making is something that would typically really make you go look for leopard. What is that? That's a log. I think we will head around the back here past the waterhole, make our way back around into this area again. There's a lot of animals on this area at the moment. Impala, wildebeest, zebra further back. It's a nice big giraffe. Let's have a quick squiz at him. So there's lots of game here, and if something does move around, the best way to find it will actually be just looking at their behavior. So we'll come back here in a bit. Let's have a quick look at this guy, nice big male giraffe. Doesn't look like he's particularly interested in anything. Giraffe, obviously being as tall as they are and with great eyesight, they can quite often be handy at helping one find things. We'll have a look at him again as well when we're back in the area. I can still hear a squirrel in the distance, so let's expand the circle a bit. Our squirrel alarm calls, obviously squirrels are nice and small, especially our squirrels. The tree squirrels we get here are tiny compared to like the red squirrels, for instance, in North America. So it does mean they alarm call for lots of things, not just for leopard, obviously. They'll also alarm call. Hey, there's always a good sight. See, Scott's listening to the same thing. What have they got? What are they looking for? You guys tracking squirrels?
Yeah.
Yeah, alarm calling here.
Yeah, we found it.
Yes, but calling for no, can't see anything.
Can't see anything. Maybe a snake.
Yeah.
So we're just going to have a quick look around.
Okay. I'm just going to go this little route around the back, past Gallagher, around the waterhole, and then back here again. So,
Okay.
all right.
Cool.
Scott's going to have a look there. Maybe he's saying perhaps it's a snake or something there that's caused the squirrel to alarm call. So I just need to check into the game drives quickly, see what's happening.
It could be anything from a snake to a mongoose to a leopard. So obviously a small animal like a mongoose could slink off without us seeing it with relative ease. We're not far from the last tracks that we did see of this, what looks to be a male leopard. It was heading north down this road. And we'll be slightly held up here by this beautiful breeding herd of elephants. This youngster may give us a small mock charge. They like to try and assert their dominance on us, and it is always good humour to see these youngsters come charging in. This looks like it could be the same herd of elephant that Hayden has spent a lot of time with the matriarch with a torn ear, but I will confirm this shortly. Cute. That is a very small little calf. Still hasn't quite got the grip of that very long nose. Oh, there we go. It proved me wrong. As a general rule, and I can't emphasize enough when we do guess ages, it is a very rough estimate. But if a young barely, it
Okay, and kom hom voor. Copy, copy. Alright guys, I just want to, so we're just taking a check there, so all good this side. Alright, so we had a little bit of a technical thingy there, as we tend to have, because we are, after all, in the middle of the bush doing a live broadcast, so it tends to happen a bit. Okay, but our plan is, as we said back there before we went to join Scott for a bit of a drive, is to just do a circle around the lodge area, see if we can find any tracks, or well, better still, see if we can find a leopard. Then I want to head up towards Buffalo Dam a little bit, see what's happening up in the eastern parts. Of course, we've got VM behind the camera this morning. VM is building up quite a bit of a reputation here for being the spotter. Always very alert on the back, so let's see what VM can spot this morning. What's your most memorable spot? You know, VM, because I talk about that often actually. I mean, I often with you guys as well talk about that. It's really... Yeah, standing by. Sorry, Alex is just letting me know something. Okay, cool. I was just talking about finding things. So when you have that moment when you suddenly realize you're finding something. So quickly, VM, before we go to Scott, what if you think back, what was your most memorable spot so far?
I think those lions on a buffalo was quite special.
Yeah, I can imagine, eh? And you have it set where you realize, oh, I'm seeing a lion, and that's so exciting. Speaking of finding things, Scott just found something, and you're gonna have some fun there, I'm sure, while we go under the tree that the elephant's pushed over. So enjoy this, Scott. We'll see you back here in a bit.
welcome back, folks. So as I was saying, this herd of elephants has really been spending a lot of time around this big marula branch that they broke down a few days ago, and it appears that they're really focusing on peeling off and consuming that cambium layer of bark. If we look across to the one closest to the road, it's providing us with a very good example of what they're doing, and they'll chew on that branch until the external layer of bark is removed, and that's where all the nutrients get transported up to the leaves from the roots. that brown piece of branch that you can see remaining now is basically no good in terms of nutrition. Incredible how they can use that trunk and in combination with their tusks to balance branches and get all the food they require. I'm just going to hit a little bit further forward. There's two youngsters that are playing, which would be great to try and get a closer look at. Beautiful. The mothers did get a little bit worked up there, but now they've calmed down again. They do have very young calves. Two of them look very similar in size and age, and one slightly bigger. Such wonderful animals to view. There's always something interesting going on with them. On our left now we can see a very large adult lying down, which is quite rare. It's usually the smaller ones that lie down. But this one obviously needs a break. So the initial plan to follow up on those leopard tracks has been somewhat held up by this beautiful sighting we're busy enjoying. We will just spend a few more minutes here and then continue. Cute. These two youngsters are back onto their playing. Beautiful. It's interesting, two young bulls and they're already, or two young males rather, and they're already practicing asserting dominance over one another, and that's quite typical in nature. That's, oh, look at that. But they start honing their skills for later in life from a very young age. Oh, that is awesome. Some early morning wrestling, always a good way to get the day started. Let's see how that other one reacts now after being dominated. Is it going to accept defeat? Or come back and re-challenge his friend? It really is a privilege to be able to view elephants with young this small in such a relaxed manner. That's certainly not the case everywhere you go in Africa. Chatting last night around the fire with Hayden, he and Brian, they mentioned they had an incredible sighting with, I think, a different herd to this, and one of the young bulls, an adolescent, came right up to the vehicle and was almost actually sniffing and touching the bonnet and the side of the vehicle. That youngster just gave us a very good example of what I was talking about earlier, the way that they can pass underneath their mother's belly. They're under a year of age, and that one did it comfortably. It was very interesting to see this herd all of a sudden simultaneously start moving away. And elephants can communicate through infrasonic frequencies or vibrations, and I think this is a very good example of them doing that. All of a sudden, all of them stopped what they were doing and started heading off. And that could have been a message sent from the matriarch, which is actually this individual here, I believe, that the one that Hayden has been spending time with. But a very good indication of how they can communicate, essentially silently or inaudible to the human ear. Okay, folks, because they have moved off, I think so are we. What a beautiful sighting. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And let's go and follow up on these leopard tracks that we saw a bit earlier. That was really good. I hope you enjoyed that. We had a message from Kadria on Twitter asking how young the two calves, the two small elephants were. And I believe somewhere between 6 months and a year would be a guess, a calculated guess from myself, but very difficult to age animals. They can all be different, just like humans. You get big babies, you get small babies, but yeah, those were very small. You could notice how they still didn't have complete control of that long trunk of theirs. The last tracks we had of this leopard were basically exactly where we were viewing those elephants, heading north along this road. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue down the road, assuming that the leopard would have continued using this major highway, and then at the next major fork or option where it could veer off, we'll check if that's taken off the path and then make decisions. From last night, that I can assure you, but whether it was from 10 o'clock last night or 2 o'clock this morning is difficult to fine-tune or narrow down when it potentially moved. If another nocturnal animal has stepped on top of the leopard tracks, that would indicate to you that the leopard maybe moved earlier in the evening, as there was time for nocturnal animal to pass by after it had already been there. Moving down this road last night, the leopard in one direction, we had hippo tracks heading back in a southerly direction. Obviously the elephants we've just seen, so interesting how one road can have so much activity just in one evening. And that's the beauty of seeing the tracks of animals, is that it's almost like reading a newspaper. It can really tell you a lot about what's been happening in the area. I can't see any tracks at the moment on the right hand side of the road, but it could well be walking on the left hand side of the road. I'm just going to pop out the vehicle now and have a closer look on foot to see if I can establish whether the leopard may have continued straight, taken this road to our right, or actually veered off before we've got to this junction, and then we'll have to backtrack. Oh, no, it did continue walking down this road. I've just seen the tracks right here. It crossed over from the left-hand side of the road onto the side of the road, and now let's determine where it's gone. I'm not having much luck here. There have already been a few vehicles driving down this road, so they may have driven over the tracks. Just bear with me. Okay, I was beginning to doubt myself there for a moment with my tracking abilities, but he did in fact turn right down this road, so he's veered off the main access road to the camp, which he had been following, that he'd been moving down about 400 or 500 meters from the initial tracks that we saw. So now we'll follow on and see if we have any luck. and then show you a little bit about the tracks. Just trying to find the clearest options, but these should do the trick. Not the first time this phone's been dropped, don't be alarmed. So now it's not very easy to see, but Jason will zoom in here. Is the glare too bad? We'll have to show you a bit later. The glare is a bit too bad at the moment, folks, but there are tracks of a leopard right here. There's two different ways to distinguish between tracks of a male or female leopard. One of which being, and the easiest one, is size. The males have got bigger paws than the females. And another one which I'll have to kind of draw on the sand for you a bit later is that the male's tracks, the back pad, which has got 3 lobes, is very rounded. Chance he could have veered off at any given stage. For me to follow each individual footprint would be a very difficult and time-consuming process, so it's better to assume that they've followed the road until the next junction. If you don't have any tracks at the next junction, then you would backtrack where they have veered off. I'll continue looking along the way to see if there's any sign to assure us that we are heading in the right direction.
Welcome back. We've just done a circuit while you enjoyed this elephant with Scott. We did a circuit around the lodge area. We're going to do a last run through the sort of quarantine area, and maybe something to see. Some signs from elephants last night. Then if there's nothing, we will continue on towards, as I said earlier, the east. I want to go up towards Buffelshoek Dam and go look around there. Other customers in the morning, some zebra, some wildebeest, excuse me. See the skin rippling every now and again. That's one of the many ways they have to chase flies off. The tail, obviously, as you can see, they're playing a big role. The ears flicking. They can sort of twitch the skin or ripple the skin like that as well, also getting flies off them. I just love the markings. If you look at, I mean, anywhere in the body, if you look at like the front of the face, almost like this diamond-shaped markings coming from the end of the mane between the ears. All the markings really running down into the nose. It's just amazing how beautiful and how perfect these stripes are. Look at that. This one's got nice markings on its back actually. It makes almost like a jaguar-like, or a civet has got similar markings on the back. Amazing how in tune animals are with each other. Did you notice the zebra suddenly listened? It's because there was just one monkey call in the back there again, nothing major, but all the animals are listening all the time. Oh, we've got another wildebeest birth starting. This will be wildebeest birth number 5. Keep an eye on it to see how it goes. I don't want to disturb her right off the bat. But here's a female that's starting to give birth. Alex, I didn't quite copy the details. Just repeat what you just said. Look at that. Now this female, just by the look of how she's moving, it's not very far along it. This can take, well, it can happen quite quickly, but I would say this is going to take probably an hour or so. This normally, oh, I don't know, there she's lying down. The fact that she was walking around, normally once the contractions get more serious, then you see that they don't walk around as comfortably. But let's stick around a little bit. We are not going to go far, and for those of you that haven't seen it, we've been very lucky that we've witnessed 4 births over the last while, all in the same herd. And if we look here to the left, there's some of the babies now, some of the new calves. There is a VM in there. VM spotted the first birth, or the first time we watched it. There's also a Scott in there. I think there's a Peter in there as well, and then there's a Brian. Brian is the best one to recognize. I don't see the female at the moment. With one of these females in the herd, it's got like a funny sort of a horn that she looks like broke years ago, so you can recognize her, but I don't see her right at this moment. That's the female. Very relaxed at the moment, and I don't want to, not that you bother them, but just want to give her a bit of time to really settle down and get comfortable. We're going to do a quick drive around. I just want to see where those monkeys were calling just now. Nothing major, but always worthwhile following up. And we'll come back in about 10 minutes. As I said, it doesn't look like she's very far along yet, so we'll just keep a little eye on her, and as it gets more progressive, we'll stick around and see that. Always interesting to see. A bit of horn wrestling going on. That's what I love about this area. I mean, quarantine is such a lovely visual space, and we've always had the impala, the wildebeest just back there, zebra quite often lately. It's just a place where you get great views. These are 2 young males. They're about 3 years old, looking at the horn shape. So they will actually have their first competitive season, if you want, next year. Normally around 4 years old, the males are big enough to start competing for mating opportunities in the rut season, which is or the mating season, which is about April, May, June. Before then, these guys will need to do a lot more sparring, a lot more practice. You see, it's just playing, but still sharp horns, strong animals. And by the time the rutting season is in full swing, then the fights can be quite serious. So the more sparring you do now, the better you get your technique, your coordination, your muscle development, the better for you when the serious business starts. Let's watch them a bit more. I'm just going to go forward slightly, get past these bushes. If you look very carefully, you'll see on the horns you have these almost running right like circles around the horns, these ridges on them. And we find that in some way or form with most antelope, especially with males that have to fight each other with the horns, is some kind of texture or design to the horns that allows them to grip. In other words, they're not trying to, well, in the serious fight they'll try anything, but they're not trying to sort of poke the other one with the tip of the horns. They're trying to lock the horns and to twist and turn with it so as to get an idea of who's stronger. In other words, you do a horn wrestle, but it's more like a wrestle than a fencing match, if you want. And then they're not trying to poke the other one with the horn. They're more trying just to gauge each other's strength. Big old bull this actually. Just looking at him physically is quite impressive. It looks like he's maybe just sort of at the end of his prime or just past his prime. You can see some old battle scars in his neck, and just with giraffe especially you start seeing that the skin sort of loses some of its luster. It's not quite as shiny looking, but he's still in good shape. He will be probably about 1.3, 1.5 tons even. In pounds that's about 3,000, 3,200 pounds. A couple of oxpeckers, actually quite a few landing there on his neck. You can see them all sitting there. Again, we're seeing this at the moment a few times. If you look at that bottom oxpecker especially, not necessarily grooming the giraffe at the moment, but getting some hair from him, getting some fur. Oxpeckers have that unique privilege, if you want, because of the relationship that they have with big mammals, giraffe, buffalo, impala and so forth. They get to also line their nest with those animals' fur, making nice little cozy breeding homes. You can see just stripping those leaves off. He's eating a red bush wallow at the moment, one of your combretums, and they actually eat a lot. Obviously, being such a big animal, even if they are a ruminant, in other words, even if they use the volume of food quite extensively, they still have to eat a lot to sustain that bulk. Good morning. Ephraim was saying something this morning about Nkanyeni, Rhino Cutline somewhere, and Slumber in Yari somewhere on Torchwood. Not so far. Madura Ingwe Konzo Voice access heading west and then up Aubrey's Road, north-ish. Yeah, Scott's following there at the moment. We're just on quarantine heading to Bubbles Dam next. That's another game drive vehicle getting out there. Yep. We have two leopard tracks here this morning. One was the one we found on the way in, which is a big leopard, a male track, which is the track Scott's following at the moment, up towards Aubrey's Road. And we have a female leopard track here as well as our Hina tracks. It could be a young male, but it's a bit small. I don't think it's quarantined. Maybe Kunyuma is a bit smaller. It's the one young male we get around here. I have a feeling maybe Kunyuma's track. Again, this could have been sometime last night, but I do have a feeling they're around. I've had a few different alarm calls this morning. There's all this attraction of young animals. What's going on there? No, sorry, false alarm. So I'm really at the moment looking for any sign because it could happen any minute, but it's just two impalas playing. In fact, one impala chasing two other ones. Sort of running suddenly. But I have a very strong feeling that Karula is in the vicinity. Karula is a female leopard that we see around this area every so often. And at the moment I'm particularly interested in finding her because she is very close to either already has or will very soon have cubs, so I'd love to find her. Have a look here. We had some good rains earlier this week, and what happens from that is you get water in obviously many more places. You get these little water pools and puddles that wouldn't normally be there in the drier season, but it depends on how much it rains or how much rain we had relative to how much of these puddles we get. So this is one that in summertime provides a place. Over the years I have found lots of leopard ats. I just want to see if there is water in it. More for reference really, but it's also got this great jackalberry tree, so this is quite a cool spot for leopard, but no, I see it's not. It doesn't have water in it yet. You can see just in front there that, sorry, there's a fly. On the bottom, that sandy area, and also up ahead of us there's a More like a sort of wallowing spine. Not yet. Let's see that wildebeest female how she's doing. Go. So sit off on the side here. It's definitely moved along further. You can see the first part of the embryonic sac actually protruding now as well. So I'm just going to sit here. This should be happening anytime in the next bit. Now wildebeest can actually give birth standing up as well, but generally speaking, while every single one we've seen so far has been lying down, I think it obviously has to do with a lot of factors, how much activity there is around at the time. In other words, is there any reason to keep moving? Are they part of a big group going somewhere and they have to keep up and only sort of stop for the birth itself? But if it's nice and relaxed like this, well, most of the wildebeest are actually just lying around busy ruminating. Then it's easier and better for her just like this, lying down, waiting for the contractions, and from where she is now, I would guess within the next, but probably the next second or third at the longest sort of series of contractions, that little guy should be born. Beautiful to see once they're born, within seconds or minutes at the longest, they start trying to get on their legs. Always amazing to me how quickly they sort of adjust from being carried inside mum in this sort of warm, secure, floating, sort of suspended place, to suddenly being out in bright daylight, and luckily today it's not windy so it won't be cold.
Here's Brian's mom.
Hey, hey, well spotted, VM. This wildebeest, as VM rightly pointed out there, that's Brian's mum. Now, she's easily recognizable. That horn, who knows from what, but some kind of accident or injury long ago would have had that horn break right at the base. Luckily it broke in a way that it's not bothering her, it's not causing any discomfort or, you know, sort of growing into. Sometimes you find that the horns, if it happens at a young age, the horn can then grow at a funny angle and cause a great deal of discomfort to the animal. So this is not bothering her at all. And she's the mother of Brian, the second wildebeest calf we saw born. And I presume he's just somewhere having a little nap. Hey, there goes a monkey. That's quite cool. You don't see monkeys very often. They're to the left in the tree. Oh, actually, that tree as well. Let me go a bit forward. The apple leaf, the one with sort of blotchy white lichens on it. In the back there. Where's the monkey go now? Just behind the wildebeest. We'll try and see them. Oh, there they go. Little vivid monkey. Well, not a little one. This is actually a dominant male. He's got that blue coloration to prove it. Because I'm going to try and just go around a little bit. This looks like the female might have a neck set of contraction soon. So in a place we can see the monkeys at the same time. Nice wide circle around them. Here's our bush tent for the rainy days and for campfire chat. Come on, monkeys, here they go. Should we one or two up here still? Oh, but monkeys can be so sneaky when they can hide as well. I've seen monkeys sit behind a branch and just watching cars as they go by, just hiding themselves. We'll see. If the monkeys pop out, we'll have a look at them again. Interesting, actually just not disturbed but sort of almost encouraged by the other female there. You noticed this the other day as well, the last two birds that we saw, that you do get support and encouragement almost from the other females in the herd. You see the hooves coming out now. The next sort of big phase should be the rest of the legs and the head. Oh, there the embryonic sock broke. She's not very comfortable at the moment, so obviously just giving birth. But still quite long periods between the contractions, and as soon as the contractions really get to the next level, then it can be quite quickly that the calf is born. One calf is suckling and the other one just, I don't know, messing around. Obviously these animals are part of a close-knit unit. I mean, these breeding herds do stay together and they do know each other very, very well as individuals. And the same with these youngsters. They're now growing up with their brothers and sisters, or half brothers, half sisters. Go down forward a bit. We also have the zebras having moved out into the open more, so we can sit with them at the same time. One's taking a nap at the moment. Oh, sorry, I'm just looking at the zebras here. There's a little foal that was just sleeping. It's that kind of morning, sleep late morning. You can see all these youngsters, many of them only a day or two old, or 3 days. Almost all of them still have the little umbilical cords protruding there. You can see that's a young bull. You see the female's up again, the one busy giving birth. Not much change there. The herd is just slowly moving along, grazing along, not going anywhere specific. I mean, they'll stick around this general area, but she obviously wants to stay close to them. A little bit of bounce in their step now. They're all a bit slow to wake up, but it looks like we might have a bit of playing around soon. They can be awesome to watch, just like the impala, you know, they need to run and exercise a little bit, and like with most animals, that is best done in the form of play. Let's stick with him for a bit. Little calf suckling in the foreground, that's the female busy giving birth just in the back of the two. This youngster wants milk. But curious, there's no specific indications. We had one little warning snort just now from the wildebeest bull. We've got a bit of attention. If you look at the zebra especially, They're all sort of keeping an eye out, and we can hear another zebra just calling sort of at the back end of this thicket behind them. So there's no real alarms, but also there's this odd little bit of sort of heightened awareness. There you can see the wildebeest again. Look at them all popping up their heads looking in one direction. I do really think there's still something moving around here. They all have this sort of sense of something going on, but not so you can't put your finger on it, but you do get the sense of something around. So let's just quickly go around to the other side where those zebras were calling. We'll come back past these guys again. Although this female looks like it might take a while for it to actually. Time now, there's not been a single contraction. I'm just going to move past slowly. I don't want to stop now. It'll disturb her perhaps. There's the zebras. It's all just like sort of looking. Guys, a reminder again, if you feel like asking questions or making a comment, you can do so in two ways. You can email through to questions@wildearth.tv, or you can tweet using hashtag Safari Live. We can chat about something, then we can maybe tell you something about zebra if you want to know something specific about zebra, or even just about Africa, or about being in the bush, or about Namibia where I'm from. Any sort of questions. It doesn't have to just be about the zebra. He walks away, the wildebeest. He's not too concerned. He had a look around. He snorted once or twice. But now obviously if he was seeing a leopard, he would be alarm calling quite persistently. Keeps looking. If you look at the wildebeest, he keeps looking back and moving on again, looking back. Sort of like we are at the moment, you know, he's got a sense of something being around, but he doesn't know what it is or where it is. Morning Chris, nice to hear from you. And yes, twins are not very common with wildebeest. Chris was just asking if it's common to have twins with wildebeest. I'm sure it's something that happens occasionally, the same as would occasionally happen with, sorry Chris, I'm just looking at tracks while we're moving along. This is a new road, we haven't driven here yet this morning. It's not common with other antelope as well, for instance impala, but I'm sure it's something that does occur on occasion. Tracks this side, some buffalo tracks, zebra tracks, white-tailed mongoose from last night, which is a very large mongoose species, solitary animal. Years ago there was a white-tailed mongoose that sort of lived on this quarantine area. We often saw it at night. It was brilliant. I haven't noticed one this time around. Question from someone in Ohio. Alex will help us again just now with a name. He's asking how big a role does the sense of smell play in tracking. Clancy, thank you very much. Clancy's just asking, hello Clancy, how big a role does the sense of smell play in tracking? I presume you're talking about us tracking as humans. Not such a big part. I mean, our sense of smell is very, very underdeveloped compared to things like hyena or leopard or lion. But it does play some role. You can, if you're tracking something very fresh like lion or leopard, there was for instance a male that was scent marking, you can pick up that scent mark on places. Also, you know where to smell because you know the type of places they'll mark at. But yeah, it's not really a big part of it in human tracking. A little bit, not a very big part. Not, for instance, as much as we play for hyena or for wild dog or any other mammals really. Our sense of smell is very underdeveloped, very underutilized, because we just don't use it that much anymore, and it's so overstimulated by strong smells. I think I'm going to do a quick circuit around the Treehouse Dam just to see what else might be around. That wildebeest female seemed like it might take quite a while, so we'll go past it at some stage, but quite keen to see what else might be happening this morning. Let's see how it looks at Treehouse Dam. Hey, there's a kudu. Feeling quite frisky this morning by the looks of it. Elephants have been busy. They've blocked the road a bit. Just too high for us to push out the way. So we will just go around it for the moment. Oh, another one. Where's the elephants? Fresh buffalo tracks. It's like a small group of Duggar boys, like 10, 15 or so of them. squirrel alarm calling up here. I'm going to try and see what this is about. I don't think it's anything major. Maybe a eagle or a snake or something it's seen. Scott's been looking around. He's looking around for new stuff now that leopard track left the area that we're in, or left the area that we could search for it. So enjoy the drive with Scott, and we'll see you back in a bit again.
Welcome back, folks. The 5th wildebeest to be born in a space of a few weeks. What a privilege to have that many wildebeest births all filmed. So that's great news. And updates on the tracks. The tracks of the young male we followed for about 1.5 kilometers, 2 kilometers. And sadly, they've crossed out of our property into adjacent reserve. We then continued and found tracks of a female, and her tracks were also very close to our boundary, heading in a northerly direction out of the property. I couldn't confirm whether she did cross out, but I did spend some time looping around that area and sadly didn't come up with anything. So now we are heading back south on Impala Road, and I'm sure it won't take us long to find something of interest. The good thing is, even though we didn't find the leopard, for this afternoon when Peter and Hayden go out, at least I've got a good idea where the last tracks of a male and of where a female were. And from that they can obviously either decide to spend time in that area and or try their luck somewhere else, but at least we've kind of got an idea. These are the first leopard tracks I've seen since I've been here, and both on the same morning. So it just goes to show how everything can change quite drastically in a very short space of time. Now it'll be interesting to see. Okay. It'll be interesting to see if this is the same herd of elephants that we were with earlier. They were heading in this direction, but it's hard to tell at this stage. This female is definitely kind of giving us the once over, so we'll give her some space. It sounds like most of the herd are on the right-hand side of the road and heading in an easterly direction left over the road. Wonderful. Let's try and get a little bit closer. On Impala Road. Hello. Good morning. This is the same female that I mentioned was giving us a once-over, and she's obviously still not entirely convinced that we are here with no harm intended. You can see how she's sniffing with her trunk. She may lift it up and kind of point it in our direction to get a better idea of who we are and what's going on. Oh, this is the broken tusk female. This is the same herd. So this is the matriarch that we viewed earlier. You can see the tear in her left ear, very distinctive, and also her broken right tusk. Scratching her ear. You'll notice how she's been resting her trunk on the ground quite a lot, and that could also be her listening to the infrasonic frequencies that elephants communicate with. These frequencies travel through the ground as vibrations, and by having all 4 feet and her trunk on the ground, it absorbs these frequencies a lot better. Very interesting to see how her behavior changed from when we saw her earlier this morning, when she couldn't care less about us, and now when we arrived she was certainly a lot more wary of us. Having a bit of a mood swing this morning. We've been very lucky with elephant viewing at the moment. Their numbers do vary greatly, and depending on the time of the year and one's luck. The elephants come and go from this reserve, which is open to the Greater Kruger National Park, and could essentially move 300 kilometers from here in a northerly direction towards the Zimbabwean and Mozambican border. 300 kilometers is about 150 miles, there and thereabouts. A bit more, 180 miles. So they do have freedom to move, and elephants are very well known for moving huge distances in search of food. And that is the beauty of the reserve we find ourselves in, is it's a very natural ecosystem. Man does not need to interfere in any way, and that's because of the sheer magnitude, 2 million hectares these animals have as their home. And it's growing, which is great. The Greater Kruger National Park opens into Mozambique and Zimbabwe, and they continue to keep dropping fences where they can and expanding this wonderful ecosystem. Just going to try and reposition. There's a small bird that's very notorious for following large herbivores as they feed. And it does this because it knows these large animals will chase up small insects, grasshoppers, as they move, and it's perched and ready to swoop down and catch any of these unlucky little insects. Okay. Now the bird, it's difficult to see, but it's perched just to the left of the elephant that's wagging its tail there. We'll see if it doesn't flutter down into the picture if they chase something up. But I think I'm being a bit ambitious, hoping for that from this distance. We'll keep an eye out though. It could well fly and follow them because it's falling behind a bit. There it goes. Oh, I don't know if you got a glimpse of it there, but it did fly through the screen and followed along with those elephants. It's a fork-tailed drongo, a pitch black bird. They're extremely clever, and in some areas they've been known to stick around meerkats and follow meerkats, and they help the meerkats some of the time by alarm calling if they see a bird of prey or any threat to the meerkats, and the meerkat then use this intelligence from the fork-tailed drongo and scurry back down their burrows. But then once the meerkats have caught something, the drongo may signal this alarm call, and the meerkats will drop whatever they've caught, scurry down the hole, and the drongo will fly down and pick up the tasty morsel that the meerkats have left behind. So, very clever little bird. I'm hoping we will get a visual of it now that they're out in a bit more of an open area. Okay, there's one now. If you just zoom in on where you are now, Jason. A bit left. Okay, there it is, sitting at the top of that tree. So let's keep an eye on it. And it should, without waiting too long, swoop down and catch something, and or follow the elephants along as they move, waiting for them to chase something up. There it goes. Boom. Awesome. Very lucky when the animals play along to the script. This is the same matriarch that was giving us a little bit of attitude earlier, nothing serious. Really awesome how they use their feet to dislodge the roots in combination with their trunk. That was very interesting. She kind of sampled that bush, thought about it, but left it behind in the end. And again, even though they may seem like they're just feeding on everything, they are highly specific in what they feed on. At different times of the year they feed on different plants, and they are picky even though they do consume huge amounts of vegetation every day. A question's just come through from Ginny on Twitter asking whether I've ever seen an elephant give birth. The short answer to that question is no. But I have arrived very, very shortly after an elephant's given birth, and it was an incredible scene to behold, because there were about 6 or 7 cows within that breeding herd, fully grown cows, and they had all backed up and kind of created a boma or a circle around this young calf, and they were all using their trunks to try and hold it up, and as it would stumble, it just had a network of about 6 or 7 trunks holding it up, and also obviously protecting it. They were probably very interested in the calf, so that was a special sighting, and they stayed with it in that circle for about 4 hours, and then slowly, as it began to gain control of its footing, they would give it more space. But that was the closest I've come to an elephant birth. I would really, really love to see one from start to finish. Who knows, maybe we'll get lucky, considering all the births we have seen already since we've been filming here on Djuma and Arathusa. We may take it up to the next level, 5 wildebeest, and now, if we hope, we may get an elephant. The only animal I have seen give birth was the wildebeest 3 or 4 days ago, so it is a very rare sighting, despite spending hours and hours out here in the bush. There's a lot of luck involved and timing when it comes to seeing these rare and special events. That's why I keep reiterating how lucky we are to have seen and also captured on film 5 wildebeest births in such a short space of time. So luck is on our favor when it comes to the babies now. But thanks for that question, Ginny. While we're here, these elephants have just crossed over into another property. I'm just going to take this opportunity to talk about these 2 marula fruits, or the marula fruits. A few days ago somebody asked if the marula fruit was edible, and they are. If you get a good tree, they can be very sweet. They're exceptionally high in vitamin C, more so than that of an orange, so a very healthy fruit. And this is what they look like. This is an average sized one. They do get a bit bigger than this, and when they're ripe they go a yellow color and drop from the tree. You can eat them off the ground, but you'd like to find one that hasn't been on the ground for too long, obviously. So this one's not ripe yet, but I just brought it along to give you an idea of what the fruit looks like. And then you can compare it to, this is the seed or the nut that's found within the marula. Like I said, this is quite a small one. I'm sure the fruits that used to surround this seed would have been bigger. It's about 1/2 centimeter of flesh, and now you see these 2 holes. This is where you get the very tasty nut if you're a squirrel. They have the skill to get in here. Us though, it's a lot more difficult, and I myself have cut my finger trying to get out. There's 2 kind of caps that fit in perfectly in these holes, and you have to try and pry them out, which is very difficult. Once you have that, then you can scrape out the nut from inside, and it's a delicious macadamia kind of rich, oily texture, but quite thin and small and hard to get out. The squirrels love it though, and in a few months' time, once the elephants really start feeding on the marula fruits, you'll find squirrels digging through piles of elephant dung trying to get these partially digested fruits, and then they can then attempt getting the nuts out. So that's what's happened here, probably last year, I guess, because they haven't started doing it yet. They're not in full swing. So I forget the name of the person that asked that question, but I hope you're watching, and now you've got a better idea of what the fruit looks like, and also what that seed or nut inside looks like. Good. We're done with those now. The question's just come through from Lev, asking whether the elephants get drunk on the marula fruit. The question's just come through from Lev, asking whether the elephants get drunk on the marula fruits. And as much as I'd like to say yes, the answer is no. I forget the name of the film, but there was a film done a few years ago where they actually used a sedated elephant to simulate an elephant being drunk. And the word kind of spread, and now people have been led to believe that elephants do get drunk from eating their fruits. Even if the fruits fall from the tree and rot on the ground, the fermentation process does not happen because there's no yeast. So yes, you can brew a beer or a moonshine out of marula fruits, and it can be tasty and it can pack a punch, and the local people of this area do it. But they need to activate the process with yeast in order to form alcohol. So that is the answer to the question. No, they do not get drunk, but they do thoroughly love marula fruits. In a month or so's time, when the fruits start dropping, elephants will just go from marula tree to marula tree, feeding almost entirely on marulas. So they do love them, but they don't get drunk on them. I think I'm going to attempt to make a marula jam or a marula marmalade this year. So, like I say, in a few weeks, I've decided to get into the area where Tingana, the male leopard, was seen yesterday. He could well have moved a long distance away from there, but because of that injury, I just think it might be worth double checking that he's not still in the general area. This is exactly where we were parked yesterday when the kudu passed. We're having a few issues with reception, folks, so I think Pete's going to take over from here.
Welcome back this side. Sorry, we're just retracking our tracks here. It's quite thick sand. We've just been driving down the riverbed. So we get our angle right here. don't want to end up in that hole. There we go. Driving in the Mulwati riverbed. Beautiful area. Let's have a quick look up at Chelapan. From Chelapan we'll be heading towards Buffalo Dam. Beautiful morning. It feels almost one of those mornings you get these days where it just feels a little bit slower, for lack of a better word. It's a nice general wildlife, general game, but even on the radio, just listening to the guides, it's not particularly busy, you know, in terms of all the radio talk. It can change at any minute, of course, in a second really. But water. Chelapan itself is not much more than a wallow really. In fact, there isn't any water left, only the mud.
Hello everyone. Being out in the bush and being out there live has its technical challenges. We're experiencing some of that now and are working on it as fast as possible to get it sorted and get you back on the vehicle with us.
Standing by. just driving along the drainage line heading up to Buffalo Dam. It's called Nyala Road, or Nyala Road South, Nyala Road North, both. Referring to antelope that we often see here because of this thick sort of riverine next to us. Very upset sounding Franklin. Franklins are these sort of pheasant-sized birds. Big panic call. You can hear it was something and suddenly got surprised by something. Who knows? Who knows it was? It's going again. I'm going to quickly, just because it can get a car in here. Years ago we had some red leopard sightings in here. There's again a little water area back behind, but it's quite a tricky thing. It's really upsetting that
5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, folks. I just jumped out the vehicle here to check for some more tracks, but they were hyena tracks, which is not exactly what we were looking for. I'm just going to continue down Rebecca's Road and see what we actually come to think of that. Yeah, let's carry on down the cut line and head to a corner of the reserve where I haven't been yet. Yeah, kind of towards Leadwood Road, Mumba Road, for those of you who know the property well. I did drive through the area where Tingana was seen yesterday and didn't come up with any sign or tracks of him, so just decided to try and work another area that nobody's really been to this morning. It is a beautiful morning. We've got a little bit of cloud cover which is keeping us cool. Very cute antelope over here that will hopefully not run away. Beautiful. A young male steenbuck. Quite interesting young antelope, these. They are highly territorial and often use set middens, which is an area, essentially a toilet for them, that they use permanently. They'll have a few, and that acts as their territorial boundary. Let me just creep a little bit further forward. What's also interesting is that the males and females will compete between one another for territories. So a male will defend his territory against a female, which is uncommon in nature. If I could use leopards and lions for an example, a lion or a coalition of male lions or a single male leopard will acquire a large territory within which several females or several prides of females will occur. So they do not compete with one another for territory, rather their territories overlap, whereas these are very different. Good, well, it seems to have headed into some thick branches that we are not going to get a better view of. Something just crossed the road ahead of us. I'm just going to get my binoculars out. Oh, I just missed it, so I don't know what it was. It could have been an antelope, but in the same breath it could well have been a predator of sorts. I'm just going to scoot ahead. It was about 500 meters ahead of us. hyena tracks up and down this road. So let's across the left side of the road. Oh, guess what? It was another little stick. Oh, it ran off. Okay. Alex, could you give updates on Peter's position, please? Okay, perfect, thank you. Just to warn you, I'm about to head down into quite a big dip, so that may cause some issues. I really craving into one of the best leopard viewing areas in Africa. That is for sure. And having spent a few years away from here, I've really been missing the interaction with leopards. One thing that I really do, that I am craving and missing greatly. So you'll notice I'm scanning from side to side, and most of the time I'm looking up in marula trees. They've got very comfortable branches for the leopards to lie in, and also on top of termite mounds, which leopards enjoy lying on just for a good vantage point. It's cool, they're not blanketed by grass, and there's often a bit more of a breeze when they're elevated. Here we have a small herd of buffalo bulls. Like an oxpecker is about to jump up, there it goes. Using the boss of those horns to clean its beak at the moment. This bull seems to have a runny nose, which is interesting. Very interesting. A mild case of the flu, perhaps. Just going to try a little bit closer to zoom in on this oxpecker. It's such a beautiful bird if we do manage to get a view of it. Let's see if that works. Oh, hello guys. You'll notice how their reaction to me freewheeling silently was very different to that of what they're used to when they hear the vehicle with the engine on moving. And that is why we have had this very intense change of behavior from them. I guess they rightfully so, don't like things creeping up on them, I would comfortably assume that both of these individuals have had close encounters with lion in their life. Perhaps they can also smell something. The behavior of the other individual that crossed the road earlier did kind of indicate to me that it wasn't entirely happy with something, and I don't think that's attributed just to us. I think there could be some kind of a smell they're picking up. Maybe it's the sense of a leopard or lion that have passed through here. Even hyena might get them a bit agitated. I'm glad we're getting a good view of the oxpecker now. Bright red bill with a yellow ring around its eye. Look at how they're swiveling their ears like satellite dishes, honing in on any sounds that they hear. It'll be interesting to see now that the small herd has split up with two on the left and one on the right of the road, whether the one on the right may follow if it's feeling a bit lonely and insecure on its own. What would be wonderful is if a pride of lion came charging from all directions now. And anything is possible out here. Okay. I saw something back there on the road. Just going to go back and see if we can get a or a view. You see those ants there on the road, Jason? Try and zoom in on them there. Let me get out and see what's causing the commotion. Is that full, eh? Let me try and creep a little bit further forward. Oh no, that's not going to work. Folks, I think the camera would be able to zoom in on what they were doing. But seeing that will continue. Qu'est-ce qu'il en faut? I really am loving exploring the property. Every drive's, it's always venturing into that you've never been before. It obviously that way.
Well, we're just making our way around the northern edge here. I'll come back on this side. We have a nice time with Scott. We just coming up to Buffelshoek Dam up ahead. We passed first on the eastern side and then decided to come back around to the north. Just to make sure we don't miss anything around it, and also there were some hippos, we should get a better view than this side. So definitely some hippos coming up, and who knows? That's tricky. Alright. Just do that. Yes, the hippos are here. Quite a nice spot, the last while at the Buffelshoek Dam. You can see 5 at the moment. If I can remember correctly, we counted 6 or 7 the other day, so might be one that's just under the water at the moment. There's one more Nyamas on Buffelshoek Dam. Standing by from Luto that I see him for. Maybe there's Shire Nyari somewhere in the Latin. There's a little baby on the right hand side. Yeah, copy him for. That's just Ephraim on the radio. He's asking if we've seen any lion tracks. He's been looking for lion tracks the whole morning. Hasn't found one. They've had a little disappearing act somewhere, maybe inside the thick bush. Very typical lazy day for hippos. They spend probably 90% or so of their daytime in the water. It's safe, they don't get bothered there by predators. It's also good they don't get bothered by the sun. Hippos can actually get sunburn if they're in the sun for too long. And too long I mean days, not for a few hours here or there, but the sun can get to them a bit. And then at night they're active. That's when they go out and they graze and they move around and do their thing. I think we're gonna spot something here. Just looking around. Get up to Cheetah Cut Line. See, maybe we can find some lion tracks somewhere. Just to get an idea where they might be. Spider web. Oh, look at this bird. Awesome. It's not often you get to see them so close. It's that Birchall starling. We had a nice talk about the starlings yesterday. Birchall starling and glossy starling. They're the two sort of iridescent starlings out here, or the blue ones. And we spoke about the ID features, the Birchall starling, which is this one. A little bit bigger. It also has that black face. You see above the eye around to the neck, the cheek sort of down to the neck is much more black. With the glossy starling, they have a yellow around the eye, like a sort of a burnt yellow, light orange color almost. Insect eaters mainly, so this one is just looking around and might go down any second to catch an insect. I'll try and get us even slightly closer. Let's try. Come on. I saw paradise flycatcher just now up ahead. Awesome bird. Guys, we are going to maybe just break up a little bit. We're just going, but it'll only be a second or two till we're out the other side. Fantastic. Scott's having a fantastic elephant morning. So enjoy the elephant, and we'll probably see just before the end of drive, or if we find something on the way.
Welcome back, folks. Jeez, we've really got lucky here. We've stopped at Twin Dams, and there were two bulls drinking, and before we knew it, the breeding herds just arrived. So to see them arriving is always great. You get a bit of excitement of them quenching their thirst. Beautiful. Now, to give you an idea of how quickly an elephant can drink, I have seen at a rehabilitation center for elephants that have been rescued, I've seen one drink 20 liters in about 2 seconds. They can surprisingly fit a lot of liquid in that trunk of theirs, but yeah, 20 liters in a matter of seconds. That's not to say they're consuming 20 liters each time they do take a sip, but they sure can get a lot of water in that trunk. You'll notice how they also try and just sip from the top layer of water, and they don't put their trunk very deep, and that's to obviously avoid sucking up any mud or sediment that you find at the bottom of these pans. Quite a small breeding herd, smaller than the one we were viewing earlier. And with a bit of luck, they'll continue on their path straight past us. Or even better, if we're really lucky, they'll get into the water and have a swim. It's not quite hot enough. They typically like to swim in the midday hours when it is hotter, but anything anything could happen. Here's a good example of sexing elephants, distinguishing between male and female. The big female that is broadside to us, that we can see drinking now, you'll notice her forehead creates a very right angle, very angular forehead, whereas that of males tends to be a lot more rounded. So that is one way you can distinguish between male and female. What a beautiful scene. Crested barbet calling in the background. We also have a buffalo drinking at the pan. There were a few more when we arrived. Not drinking, they were just kind of lying up. I think they had come and had a drink and relaxed. This one may just be having one last little sip before it follows the rest of the herd off.
Well, welcome back this side. Unfortunately, the elephants are breaking up a little bit there signal-wise. So, just wondering what we're going to do next. Head to those animals. See the Scotch whereabouts of the lambs he was. Scotch again. Scott, you copy? road this. It's not a road as often travelled as some of the other ones. It can get very bumpy, and when it rains a lot it can get very slippery as well. There's a lot of sort of seepage areas around here. Okay, so I'm going to try and move towards the end of the drive. Time to get to those elephants. I can't get hold of Scott on the radio at the moment, but I've got a rough idea of where he was. So let's have a look what we can do in the last, how much we've got left, about 25 minutes, so plenty of time to see plenty of things. Scott, you copy? Scott, you copy? Hey, quite a big example of one of the small five. There. No problem, Scott. Just want to check, doesn't Love had earlier, whereabouts on Twin Dams were they? Leopard tortoise, cool. Just spoke to Scott there, so I have an idea of where to go. And I think we're going to leave this little tortoise to do his thing. I want to see some elephant before the end of drive. Let's get ourselves over there. Back in that beautiful riverbed, we can just drive down it a little bit. It's one of my favorite little sort of scenic drives, if you want, on Djuma. We'll zip down to Twin Dams, see there's at least maybe even going in the water if we're lucky. lovely trees. It's just a really picturesque scene. This that we're drawing in now, this is the riverbed itself. So this is the coarse sand that you get from that. Obviously when the water is flowing and we get the big rains, you get water flushing or sort of flash flooding through here for hours or a few days sometimes, depending on how much rain and how saturated everything by the time you get the big rain. Hey, some nyalas. A little bit forward, sorry. There we go. There's a perfect example of how much nyala males and female differ from each other. They could almost be two different species. And of all the antelopes, nyalas have the biggest difference between male and female in terms of physical appearance. Another little sort of curious bits of info. It's, when you talk about antelope, for the bigger ones you talk about bull and cow and calf, the same as you would for cattle. And then for the smaller ones you talk about ewe and ram and lamb, the same as you would for sheep. And the distinction in size is made with nyala, and if I remember it correctly from way back, if you get very technical, which I mean this is just for fun really than anything else, but if you get very technical, a nyala bull would be a bull. In other words, a nyala male would be a bull, but a nyala female would be an ewe, because that's the size split where the people that discuss these things and decide how we're going to use the words decided on many years ago. It's a little bit of behind, what shall I say, behind the naming of animals information. Hey, I can see one. Right. I think they might have finished drinking, but I can see a few eddies in the distance. We'll get closer to them. Your wildebeest. Let's have a look at these. Like a little breeding group. Oh, it must be breeding group. There might be the two bulls we saw yesterday afternoon. I don't know which elephants they are. They are elephants that we know. Let's have a look at them. Quite interesting. Last year or two. But this does look like a bachelor herd with a couple of really young, sort of fresh bachelors in the group, and these guys, the two we're looking at now, well, the one, they are slightly older, but again not very old bulls. That guy we're looking at is maybe late 20s. Both of these guys I put in the late 20s, 30 maybe for the bigger one. They've had a drink. You can see the front feet are all wet. It looks like they're wearing socks. Surprised they didn't have a bit of a mud bath as well. It's getting quite hot now. I think we're going to have a hot one today. What do you think, Liam?
Scorcher.
Feels like, yes. I think today will be a scorcher. Okay, well, I was saying that it didn't have a mud bath, but I see they it's interesting there a little bit of I don't know what to call it really. Not aggression, but a bit of almost like nervous energy between them. It's almost as if these bulls only joined the herd just now. Keep in mind, breeding herds. It's one of the youngsters trumpeting. Breeding herds don't travel permanently with big bulls. Big bulls only join them visiting and going away again. The only fixed grouping with elephants are the breeding herd structure. So the adult females and the youngsters. The males come and go, relatively speaking, to what's going on, to females in estrus or to bigger bulls coming along and pushing them away again. So there's a lot of change with which bulls are with the herds. Gives an idea of good size there. The two elephants furthest to the left. Okay, now he's blocking her, but the one sort of turning sideways. Now that's a bull, as I said, about 30 years or so, a little bit more or less, maybe 29, 30 years old. And the one behind him, just coming out there now, that's an adult female, probably of a good 35 years old, so older than him. So you can see the size difference is massive. And by the time that this guy gets to 35, 40, he will be substantially larger than her. But for now, they're having fun. The mud is great for many things, but firstly, on a day like this where it's getting hot now, it helps to cool them down, because obviously you get this evaporative cooling now as if you're sweating. I mean, elephants don't sweat. So they can wet their skin with mud or water. And this mud is going to cake onto the skin and into those folds in this very rough skin that they have. And as the wind blows, the mud in the sort of the folds of the skin will stay wet for longer, and they'll keep them cool as well. Another benefit, parasites. Bits of ticks and fleas and things they pick up. Again, their skin is thick enough to mean that that's not really a problem for most of the time, but you still get them in there, getting into those little folds in the skins and all over, and this also helps to get rid of them. So there's a practical sort of hygienic aspect to this as well. It might not look like this, but this is the equivalent of a bath in many ways. Look at that big guy. He's got his tusks into the mud at the moment. He's standing, literally keeping his weight in his tusks. Oh, this is a lovely scene. Look at that guy also his tusks in the mud now. Basically trying to make more mud. So he's just digging in there. That's quite amazing. You don't see these big guys that often. Just shows you how dexterous they still are and how maneuverable they still are with those big bodies. But he's trying to get mud all over him. But I think he's also actually using his tusks to churn up and dig up the mud there a bit. Beautiful to see this. Yeah, we're definitely going to stay with these ellies for the rest of the drive unless they leave. But it's a beautiful sight here, look at that. That's one happy elephant. He is literally covered now head to toes. All stations Muntle is now head to toes. All stations Muntle small slumby and love baboon pan. And for Gary Main Twin Dams baboon pan. You can see they can use all kinds of different ways of getting the mud onto them. The trunks, kicking the mud, the tusks as we just saw physically getting down into the mud. You can imagine what a nice relief that must be if you've been really hot, with some cool mud all over you. I think I'm almost considering it myself at the moment, VM. The sun has certainly kicked it up a notch or two in the last 20 minutes. So we're on one of the main roads here. This might be a vehicle passing us. A little bit. There we go. Oh, what a lovely sight. Sort of the smaller elephants, the younger ones in the breeding herd have moved on. So we've now got the big bulls that we found to start with. There's two playing a bit of tusk wrestling in the back. And it's mostly just young males actually. I'm just trying to see, I don't see... it actually looks like young males mainly. Suddenly listen there, two of them stopped. You can see when elephants listen, the one on the right still is this one here. If you look at the canal, the ears moving, but they tilt the ears slightly up, slightly forward, and then they keep it still. There it's doing it again. Maybe just hearing something, maybe something from the herd, maybe from elephants further away. Way. It's become quite funny. It's quite a slippery story in there, so oh guys, this is amazing actually. It's not every day you see elephants really having a big sort of play like this. Oh, we've got more elephants. Wow, a couple more here behind us, another breeding herd, some babies, a female. Coming around us. Maybe that's what that other elephant was listening to just now. It'd be nice to see now because you'll get a little bit of interaction here. Look at the young one coming closer. You'll get the new elephants arriving, sort of greeting a little bit the ones that are having the mud bath at the moment. Just look at those little ones just having a blast. Absolutely loving it. Like the grown-ups, these young ones are just enjoying getting into the mud, cooling down. And baby elephants can play so much that eventually the adults actually have to call them. I've seen that many times at waterholes. They're having so much fun that the adults have to come over and call them once or twice. Sometimes even physically come over and sort of remind them that, listen, we've spoken, you must come now. Look at that little one. Yay, lots of attitude. I love all elephant, but I love baby elephant. They can be awesome to watch. Just getting back close to mum again. Well, these guys are still enjoying the mud. The big guys seem to be taking a bit more time at it. I think of all of them, this one here has done the best job. Oh, and he's going in for more. He is so covered in mud now. He wants to make sure that he stays cool for the rest of the day. This is also a question that you get every so often. Can big elephants lie down? That gives you the answer. Although they do like to lie down, sort of like he's doing now, where there's a slight slope on the one side. Oi! Sure, he's just so enjoying this. Sorry guys, I just find elephants quite comical to watch sometimes. Especially when they're in sort of a slightly fun or elated mood like they are now. You know, just messing around and the trunks are flopping around. Great animals. Really are great animals. Well, it's been a fantastic morning, great ending as well. Finding elephants are always exciting, and especially when you find them in such a beautiful setting. This is just he's just happy elephant. So thank you very much for joining us at Wild Earth here in Sabi Sands, and the weekend's coming, so Big Cat Week is around the corner. Join us for the afternoon drive, guys. Please, it's going to be a nice big one. Hopefully we find some cats. Lots of time for questions from myself, Peter Pretorius, and VM behind the camera. VM, nice being in the vehicle with you, and Alex in the back in control. Thank you very much, and on behalf of Scott and Brian as well in the other vehicle, see you this afternoon, and enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the last bit of the elephants.